So imagine you leave a bad review for a company, and instead of addressing your criticism, this company instead uses their highly paid security team to try and intimidate you and to shut you down. That's exactly what eBay employees did. They tried to cover it up then. They got caught, and multiple employees now at the highest levels have been charged, and a major lawsuit has been launched against eBay. So Ina and David Steiner, they run a blog out of their home in Boston. They started it way back in 1999. They educate people basically on the world of online selling, and part of that initiative involved being critical of some of the policies at eBay. Now make note here that eBay did not sue them for libel. So it could be reasonably assumed that nothing these people said was inaccurate or untrue. But eBay seemingly didn't like what was being said, and the then CEO, who, by the way, was allowed to resign, and he got a $57 million severance package, not too bad at all, he sent email messages directly to this security team that said, "Take her down, burn her down. I want to see ashes as long as it takes, whatever it takes." Now, because there were no specific directives, the CEO himself never got any criminal charges. It's like the mob code, right? Mob will say something like, "Go out and see Benny and bring him a bag of onions," right? Nothing about a hit was said. Anyway, top-ranking members of that security team, they got on it, and their plan to silence the Steiners, and I joke about it a bit, but it must have been absolutely terrifying for these poor folks. Anyway, their plan was to start a long-term intimidation campaign. And just some of the things they did to intimidate and silence the Steiners over the months. First, send a blood-covered pig's head, and this is an FBI photo that was taken. It's the actual head, I guess inspired by the Godfather movie. And they also sent live spiders and cockroaches in boxes to the Steiners' home. eBay flew their security team first class, by the way, from California to Boston to rent black vans to seemingly intimidate, stalk, and trail the couple while they were driving around. Apparently a screwdriver was bought, this came up during the trial locally, to try and break into their home and install a tracking device. Now, when Ina Steiner didn't give up, she kept on reporting on eBay, and good for her. Her husband started to be targeted. He was sent a book that was entitled Surviving the Loss of a Spouse. Now, the plan, seemingly as Ina didn't want to stop reporting, was to try and get David, her husband, to stop her wife from criticizing eBay. Now, David, he didn't cave either. Good for him. So eBay retaliated by sending, check this out, adult magazines in David's name to the neighbor's address, obviously to try and disgrace and humiliate the poor guy. After all this, eBay employees created fake Twitter handles, and they left very violent messages. "Do I have your attention now? C-word. You are sick, mother effers, and everyone will know. You effing C-word, ass B-word." Now, there's a lot more to the story, including doxing and other nefarious activities that happened, but you get the message. Absolutely insane things were done to try and silence people who just said some negative things about the company that apparently they didn't like. Now, the eBay employees then tried to cover everything up by suggesting they find a friendly cop in the local police. Remember, the main gentleman charged in this was a 30-year veteran of the police force who had retired, and then to provide false evidence to the investigation to lead away from their activity. So what eventually happened? Well, after everything went down, the eBay manager was promoted to director of security operations. He got a raise from $185,000 to $205,000 a year. This was back in June 2020. That was about 10 months after this whole cyber stalking campaign began and just before it became public. Now, cut to today, after everything was discovered, the charges filed, that defendant just received an 18-month jail sentence, 3 years of supervised release, and $15,000 fine. There's 4 others who were involved in this scheme. They've pled guilty, every one of them, and are awaiting sentencing. Now, the Steiners, they're now suing eBay as these activities were seemingly condoned at the highest levels. Now, of course, there were no charges laid, so these are simply allegations at this point. Now, David Steiner was quoted as saying, "This has been an unbelievably difficult ordeal for my wife and I. Never did we imagine during our jobs as journalists would lead to this. We want to protect the rights of reporters and their freedom of the press. We've encountered enormous cruelty and abuse and have feared for our lives. If this behavior can happen to us, it can happen to anyone." Now, we took a look at some of the comments on these various media websites that covered this story, and they range from disgust to outright rage. Some people suggesting that these criminal sentences are absolutely too lenient. One of the comments, "This situation should be the poster child for stronger cyber stalking laws." Another comment, "Always nice to read that a cop of 30 years and then higher management person at a big tech company shouldn't be held responsible because they were drunk a lot." More on that in a moment. Another one, "Tech bros seem to be the poster children for infantile excess. It's the entire structure of global capitalism and libertarianism run amok." Now, eBay themselves, they put out a statement last year over this. "Internal investigation found that while the then CEO, although Mr. Winig's communications were inappropriate, there was no evidence that he knew in advance about or authorized the actions that were later directed towards the blogger and her husband." There are two possible options here. eBay top brass knew what was going on, which they deny, and no charges were ever filed, or eBay has absolutely no idea what their employees are doing, right? So, hey boss, group of us, we're flying to Boston, first class. By the way, we're going to rent some black vans and buy some pig masks and stuff. Just don't ask, right? Okay, guys, have fun. Here's the company card. There's only two options. They either know, they absolutely have no idea what their employees are doing, and they're running amok, as one of those commenters suggest. Now, additionally crazy, here's the drunk part. As part of the defense, the defendants blamed the quote-unquote drinking culture at eBay. Now, the sentencing memorandum quotes the defendant's wife as saying, "Drinking culture at eBay worsened an alcohol abuse problem after he retired from a career area captain in the Santa Clara Police Department. While eBay provided a place to go, a purpose, and new colleagues, it did not resolve his drinking problem." Apparently, eBay employees quite often started the day with alcohol, sometimes not returning home until 4 a.m. Now, it's interesting, another Silicon Valley giant, Facebook, was mentioned in the sentencing memorandum. Here's the quote. "I did not know about the drinking culture at eBay and Facebook," Cook's wife said in a statement quoted in the memorandum. "First, he worked as a contractor for eBay, which has a bar on campus where he would drink with his coworkers. They would often leave that bar and go over to a local bar restaurant and continue drinking until late at night. Then he started working at Facebook, where they allowed drinking during the day and would often have free alcohol available." This is incredibly bad timing for eBay, as the public is seemingly becoming increasingly concerned about this power that's wielded by some of these Silicon Valley giants. It's going to be interesting to see how this lawsuit and negative publicity impacts the company overall and the industry as a whole. I'm going to put a link to the Steiners lawsuit announcement above if you're interested in checking that out. I've got a feeling they may not have to blog for long if they don't want to. Like and subscribe for updates for this. Thank you very much for watching.